My dear students, welcome to today's online class. In the previous class, we discussed about default constructor. What is a default constructor? It is a type of constructor which is used to initialize values to the data members of a class. And one more thing, default constructors doesn't have any parameters, right, or any arguments in its function. And we discussed some two programs on default constructors also, right. So today next topic, that is second type of constructor, that is parameterized constructors. Second type of constructor. Today we are going to discuss another type of constructor, that is parameterized constructors. Parameterized constructors. See here, what is mean by parameterized constructors? Means constructors which have parameters in it are called parameterized constructors, right. What it says, constructors, or else we can also say constructors with arguments. Parameters are also called arguments, right. So therefore we can say the constructors with arguments are called parameterized constructors, right. What it mean? Constructors with parameters or constructors with arguments are called parameterized constructors. Means in the last class we discussed about default constructor, right. So let us consider its declaration, that is constructor, right, without any argument, and it is used for only initialize, and default constructor is mainly used to initialize values to data member, right. Data member is equal to some value, right. So this is what default constructor, right. We discussed it in the last class. This is a declaration of default constructor. What is a default constructor? Constructor which is used to assign values to the data members of a class with no argument. This is empty, right. Parameter list is empty, right. Empty means with no arguments is called default constructor. Today we are going to discuss parameterized constructor. What is mean by parameterized constructor? A constructor with arguments. This is without argument list, right. A constructor with arguments are called parameterized constructors, right, are called parameterized constructor. Then what will be the declaration of parameterized constructor? See here, declaration, syntax of parameterized constructor. See, this is what declaration or syntax of default constructor. Now see the declaration or syntax of parameterized constructor. Means constructor name, instead of constructor name what we can write? Constructor name is the same as class name, therefore write here class name open bracket closed bracket, but here it is a parameterized construction, means it must has some what arguments, therefore write argument 1, argument 2, so on, right, and its body. This is what declaration syntax of parameterized constructor. Means compared to this default constructor, what is the difference here? This default constructor contains without arguments, or this default constructor doesn't contain argument list. This is empty, see here. Whereas this parameterized constructor must contain argument list or parameter list, and this may contain body of the constructor. Here related statements or declaration, whatever it may be, we can write. This dotted line indicates what? Body of parameterized constructor, right? This may include some cout statement or some variable declaration or initialization, anything. Whereas this default constructor compulsory, there is a value assigned to data member of a class. This is compulsory here. Whereas in parameterized construction, what we can observe, this body may contain anything. It may contain data initialization or any declaration or any cout statement, anything, but this must be present. That is, the constructor must contain a parameter list or argument list. Argument 1, argument 2, so on, argument n. Depending on our program, we have to consider number of arguments here. So this is what parameterized constructor, right? This is what parameterized constructor. See here, what is the mean by parameterized constructor? It is a type of constructor which contains arguments list is called parameterized constructors, right? A constructor with arguments is called parameterized constructor, right? And next we can observe here some 2 points. That is, he says the number of arguments and their type should match the formal parameters. See, just see here these 2 points. After writing program, I am going to explain these points. What is the first point? The number of arguments and their type should match the formal arguments of the constructor. Second point, if the type of the arguments does not match the formal parameters of a constructor, C++ use the type conversion and looks for the best match. See here. So these 2 points I am going to explain writing one program using parameterized constructor concept. Then it is easy to understand these 2 points. See here, Let us see one program on parameterized constructor. Program to illustrate the passing of arguments to the constructor. What he says? Program to illustrate the passing of arguments to the constructor. It is nothing but passing of arguments to the constructor means that constructor contain arguments. That constructor contain arguments means that is a parameterized constructor, right? So let us see one program on parameterized constructor. Now I am going to write a C++ program to find the sum of natural numbers using parameterized constructor concept, right? See here, hash include IO stream.h hash include conio.h class. See here, I am writing C++ program using a parameterized constructor concept to find the sum of natural number. Therefore, I am taking class name sum of natural number, sum of natural number. So here I am using this parameterized constructor concept. So therefore, here in private, see here, now I have to declare a parameterized constructor. Therefore, all constructor must be declared in a public section. Therefore, I am writing here public, and I am taking here parameterized constructor. So constructor name is same as class name. Therefore, sum of n is the class name. Therefore, sum of natural number. See here, parameterized constructor means that must contain what? That must contain some argument, right? So therefore, I am taking here one variable int n. So this is what? Parameterized constructor. Because this is the constructor name same as class name, and this contain one argument in it. So a constructor contains arguments in it means parameterized constructor, right? So I am writing the body of the parameterized constructor. So here I have to find sum of natural number, right? So initially sum will be, I am going to store sum in yes. Initially sum is equal to 0. Initially sum is equal to 0, and afterwards I am using for loop, right? For I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to n, I plus plus, right? Next, sum is equal to sum plus I, sum is equal to sum plus I, and afterwards I am closing this. If this for loop only one statement is there, therefore floor bracket is not needed. I am closing this constructor, closing this parameterized constructor, and here I am writing one more function in the class, that is void display function. Void display function, right? In the display function, what I am going to do? I am going to write one cout statement, that is cout sum of n number is equal to, I am going to write here yes. I am closing this cout statement. Afterwards, I am closing this class with semicolon, right? Afterwards, I am going to write void main function, void main function. In void main function, very first statement is declaration of objects for the class. Therefore, what is the class name? Sum of n is the class name. Object name, I am here taking object as I am here taking obj as object with 5. This is what? Means here I am declaring objects, and this object contains actual argument 5. It is passing to this. Whenever this object is declared, at the time constructor is invoked. So this object contain some value, that is actual value. So this is coming here and it is assigned to n. So this is what actual argument, and this is what formal argument, right? See here. So this is comes here. First I am going to write this step. So next step is after declaration. So this is working, and with the help of this object I am calling this display function. This is obj dot display function get close, get and close. See here how it works. Means execution starts from a main function. So here this is what object declaration, object declaration with actual argument, that is 5, and passing it to parameterized constructor, right? What I written here, this step is what? Object obj declaration with the actual argument. This 5 is the actual argument, that is 5, and passing it to parameterized constructor. Means whenever this object is declared, automatically constructor is worked. Here parameter constructor is there. Therefore this 5 is coming passing to this parameterized constructor. Then n value becomes 5. N value becomes 5. See here what happens. So here n value becomes 5. Initially sum is 0 for I equal to 1. Initially what? Initially sum is 0, I is equal to 1, n is equal to 5, right? So sum is equal to 0 for I equal to 1, I less than or equal to n, 1 less than or equal to 5. Yes, yes means s is equal to s plus I. Previously s is 0, 0 plus 1, 1, s becomes 1. Next I plus plus, I becomes 2, 2 less than or equal to 5. Yes, S means S is equal to S plus 2. S plus 2 means previously S is 1, I is 2, it becomes 3. Next I becomes 3. 3 less than or equal to 5. Yes. S is equal to S plus I means 3 plus 3. S becomes 6. Next I becomes 4. 4 less than or equal to 5. Yes. S is equal to S plus I, that is 6 plus 4. It becomes 10. Next I becomes 5. 5 less than or equal to 5. Yes. S is equal to S plus I means previously S is 10. 10 plus 5, 15. Now I becomes 6. That what? I becomes 6. 6 less than or equal to 6? No. No means it come out from for loop, and it also come out from this constructor. Now what S value holds? This S value holds 15, right? That S value holds 15. See here, then it comes here back. Here object dot display function means it goes for display function. Here what happens? See out, sum of n natural number is equal to S. Means yes, what it contains? This display function is there in the class. This constructor is also there in the class. So therefore this S holds 15. So therefore what we get? Sum of n natural number is equal to 15. So in this way parameterized constructor works. Right? So this is the program used to find sum of natural numbers using the concept called parameterized constructor. Using the concept called parameterized constructor. Simple way, what is mean by parameterized constructor means it is a type of constructor with arguments. A constructor with arguments is called a parameterized constructor. So here this is what? A parameterized constructor, because constructor name is same as class name and this constructor has one argument or parameter, hence it is called a parameterized constructor. And I said I am going to explain 2 notes of writing on program, right? So see here, what is the first note? The number of arguments and their type should match the formal parameters of the constructor. Means whenever we are going to declare objects, at that time we are passing the arguments, and these are passed to parameterized constructors, right? These are transferred to parameterized constructors. So means what is the first point? The number of arguments and their type should match the formal parameters. Actual parameter means parameters which are declared in the calling function are called actual parameters. Parameters which are declared in the called function are called formal parameters. So here cursor value move from value which are declared in the object declaration are moving to constructor. So that therefore what object contains are called actual parameter here, and where code is there, those parameters are formal parameter. So what is the first point? The number of arguments and their type should match the formal parameters. Means this is actual parameter, this is formal parameter. So what we are going to declare, that should match with the formal parameter. Means here int type value is there, so formal parameter also contains formal parameters also int type. So that's why I taken here int n, because from this object declaration step I am passing one value. This is int means this parameterized constructor also contains int parameter. Suppose I am passing here float value means this parameterized constructor must hold one float argument. So like this actual and formal must match with their data type. And what is the second one? If the type of the arguments does not match the formal parameters of any constructor, C++ use the type conversion and looks for the best match. For example, an integer value might be converted to a float point value with a 0 decimal part. It means, suppose what is this? For example, an integer value might be converted to a floating point value with a 0 decimal part. For example, here I am passing 5. This is actual argument. Formal also must be int. Then no problem. Suppose I declared here float means, I declare here float n means here integer type is there. This 5 comes here, right? So here data type float is there. So parameters are not matching. At this time, what happens in C++? Compiler is going to make this 5 as 5.0. Means compiler is going to consider the fractional part as 0. So this adjustment is done. So like this, that's why I said I am going to explain these 2 points after writing program. Okay, now it is clear. What is the first point? Parameters, actual parameters must be matched with the formal parameters. Second point, suppose match is not found means compiler is going to make type conversion, and it is if here I am passing int and in the formal it is float is there means it is going to take fractional part as 0. Like this parameterized constructor works. Now let us see one more program on this. Now let us see one more program on this parameterized constructor, that is program to find the largest of 2 numbers using parameterized constructor. What? Program to find the largest of 2 number using parameterized constructor concept. See here. So now we have to find here largest of 2 number. Therefore I am going to take here class name as max, means we have to find the maximum number among 2 numbers. Therefore max, and take here in the private one variable called int big. We have to find big, therefore I am taking one variable big, and in the public section declare parameterized constructor, that is same name as class name. Therefore max of, it must contain some parameters, right? Therefore I am taking 2 variables because we have to find a 2 number, big number among 2. Therefore int n comma int m. This is what? Parameterized constructor with 2 arguments athwa with 2 parameters, right? With the 2 arguments or 2 parameters. Now write the code here. Just how to find a big number among 2, writing if else statement, right? So if n is greater than m, yes means if n is greater than m means big is equal to n, right? Else means assign big is equal to m, right? Close this if statement, close this if statement, and close this what? Constructor. This is what? End of parameterized constructor, right? End of parameterized constructor. And write on a display function here, write on a display function, that is void display function cout big number is equal to, where it is stored in big, right? Big. Close this display function. Afterwards, close this class with semicolon. Close this class with semicolon. Next, write a main function, void main. Very first step is object declaration. So class name is max. See here, declare first object with here. This is a parameterized constructor. It contains two arguments, right? So object must contain two actual arguments. I am writing int, right? 10, 20. Okay. I am declaring one more object here, max obj1, obj2 of 500, 200. And afterwards, I am calling this display function. So object 1 dot display function, object 2 dot display function, get, close the main function, get and close the main function. See here, this is a very interesting. See here what happens. Our aim is to find a big number, right? Using the concept called parameterized constructor. See here, execution starts from a main function. In the main function, very first step is to declare objects. Here, don't simply declare objects. That object must has parameters, because we are using the concept called parameterized constructor. So this parameterized constructor contain two integer numbers. So therefore declare two values in the object declaration. So here max obj1 of 10, 20 means whenever we are going to declare this first object, then these two values 10 and 20 are passed to this constructor. Then what happens? N value becomes 10, m value becomes 20. N value becomes 10, n value becomes 20. And afterwards, see here, n is greater than m, 10 is greater than 20. No means else means big is equal to m, means big is equal to m means 20. So here first time what happens? Big equal to 20 is stored in the first time. Big equal to 20 is stored. And afterwards it comes here, right? In the second object declaration, what happens? Max of, and this big equal to 20 is stored for object 1, right? For object 2, what happens? Again two int values are passed to parameterized constructor, that is 500 and 200. 500 and 200. Then n value becomes 500, m value becomes 200. See here, n is greater than m, 500 is greater than 200. Yes, yes means big equal to n, that is big equal to n means big equal to 500 is stored, big equal to 500 is stored. Whereas when we take the values of first argument, first objects, big becomes 20. Among 10, 20, big becomes 20. Whenever we are going to declare a second object and we are passing 500 and 200, big is going to hold 500, right? So note down this. Whenever we are going to declare first object, big is going to hold 20 because 10, 20, 20 is bigger. Whenever we are going to pass arguments using second object, 500 and 200, 500, 200 assigned to m and n respectively. So among 500, 200, 500 is big, therefore big is equal to n is there, that is big is equal to n means 500 is stored. When this 500 big equal to 500 when through object 2, through object 2. And next, object 1 dot display function. Object 1 dot display function means this display function works. This statement is printing big number is big number is big. So which big it display? When object 1 is executed, at that time big contain 20. So therefore object 1 dot display means this is printing. So what is the result? Big number is 20, right? Among 10 and 20, big number is 20. Therefore, big number is 20. Next, this display function over. Object 2 dot display function means once again this display function executes here. Big number is big means this display function is executed through second object. So therefore, when second object invoked at that time, big contain 500. Therefore, big number is 500. Like this, we are going to get results. So what is the final result? First we get one sentence. Big number is 20 because parameters n and m are 10 and 20. So which one is big? 20 is big. Therefore, big number is 20. And one more sentence we are getting, that is when object 2 dot display invoke, then we get another sentence, big number is 500 because among 500 and 200 these two number 500 is big. Therefore we get another sentence, big number is 500, big number is 500. Like this, try once again these concepts, go through this parameterized constructor. In the next class we are going to discuss another type of function, another type of constructor. Thank you.